Russia, I'm home. Today we will talk about the race at Sochi this past weekend on F1 Fridays. We are going to skip over Friday's practice session and go straight to Saturday's qualifying sessions. The race and qualifying at Sochi were both expected to be wet. This meant that during qualifying, different drivers could perform better or worse depending on their experience in the rain. Rain often favors British drivers, as they often have to drive in the rain during karting competitions and even up into single-seaters. I will give like a quick little analysis of each qualifying session. I'll probably call qualifying Q1, Q2, and Q3. If you don't know how qualifying works, go check out episode 1 of F1 Fridays when I break down how the sport works and the rules and whatnot. Anyways, let's get back to the first round of qualifying. In Q1, we saw that Max Verstappen elected to start from the back by not setting a time because he was taking an engine penalty for replacing his third engine. The reason that drivers start in the back is because they would rather wait till all of the drivers are spread out and pick them off one by one, opposed to possibly starting in the middle of the pack and risking getting car damage on the first lap. We saw Giovinazzi of Alfa Romeo spin due to the wet track. This was when we started to have the feeling that Q2 and Q3 might be a little bit more wet than Q1. The drivers eliminated from Q1 were Verstappen, Mazepin, Giovinazzi, Schumacher, and Kimi. On to Q2. In Q2, we saw Charles Leclerc of Ferrari and Nicholas Latifi of Williams do the same as Max Verstappen, electing not to set a time because they had an engine penalty and would rather start from the back rather than in the front and risk damage to the car. It was also a disappointing day for AlphaTauri as both of their drivers didn't make it into Q3. On to Q3. In Q3, we saw that the rain was coming and going. All of the drivers came out on intermediate tires, but they all changed to soft tires when the track started to clear. In Q3, we saw Lewis Hamilton, a veteran in the sport, pull a little whoopsies when he ran into the pit wall when he was going in to get his new set of tires. This delayed him and Valtteri's session, not allowing for either driver to warm up their tires before their fast laps. This allowed for drivers to take advantage of Hamilton's misfortune and led to George Russell of a Williams qualifying third, Sainz of Ferrari in second, and your boy Lando Norris qualifying first, P1, and receiving his first pole position ever. With Hamilton qualifying fourth, 3 out of the 4 top qualifiers were from Britain, with the only driver not being from the country was the Spaniard of Carlos Sainz in second. Pause the video if you want to look at the rest of the placements and times going into the race on Sunday. The race day. Sunday was filled with heartbreaks and huge milestones. What can I say? The first few laps were awesome. We saw Sainz and Norris battle for the lead, with Sainz taking first and then Norris maybe 5 laps into the race taking it back. It was awesome. We also saw Lance Stroll gain 4 spots by the first lap. Can't believe this guy's doing this. We also saw some other battles like Lewis Hamilton versus Alonso and then Hamilton versus Ricciardo. All very spectacular. While all of these battles were going on, Verstappen was slowly picking everyone off one by one coming from the back. We almost saw his progress reverse though when his front wing almost got taken off by Charles Leclerc. Luckily he avoided an accident, but when he was going to try to overtake Leclerc and Vettel, Leclerc quickly cut him off. Max hit the brakes, avoided that, eventually took over both of them, and the rest is history. All of the drivers were battling fairly and cleanly, and we didn't see any terrible pit stops or accidents. This continued until around lap 47 when it started to sprinkle. This made a hard decision for the teams. Do you stay out and finish the race, or do you switch to rain tires? Lots of the drivers did not want to pit with only 4 to 6 laps to go. Verstappen made a huge call, pulling the plug and calling for the rain tires much earlier than most of the other drivers. Pitting early proved to be the right call for Verstappen as the rain started to come down more. Norris and Hamilton, being in first and second, were still on slick tires because neither wanted to pit and give up their position. On lap 49, Mercedes pulled the plug and told Hamilton to pit. Norris remained out on the track, on slicks. Hamilton, now on intermediate tires, was closing the gap quickly, and on lap 51 out of 53, Norris spun out. Hamilton eventually took the lead, with Max Verstappen coming back from last to second. And Carlos Sainz had a very well managed race and finished in third. Pause the video to look at the finishing positions and times. I will now break down how Hamilton got his 100th win, what happened to Norris leading a majority of the race, and how he ended up only getting 7th, and how Verstappen went from last to second. How'd he do it? I don't know. Well, I'll tell you. First off, Hamilton is one of the best, if not the best. Hamilton and Michael Schumacher both have 7 world titles, but the thing that separates the two is the amount of wins they achieved over their careers. And a lot of other things, but whatever. Lewis has 100 wins, and Schumacher, he only got 91. I give it to Lewis. I think he's the best all time, but you know, it's whatever. Schumacher, you make your choice. Anyways, that's not what we're even talking about. So we're gonna get on to how Lewis got that 100th win. The way Hamilton got this podium was a hard-fought battle. As said before, Hamilton was trailing Norris until lap 49 when Hamilton pitted. It was worth noting that Hamilton did not seem like he was going to catch Norris before he pitted. Pitting gave Hamilton an extreme advantage against Norris, which begs the question, why didn't Norris pit and get rain tires like everyone else before Hamilton did? The reason is that Norris was in first and very inexperienced. Norris was warned about the wet conditions, but was adamant that he could keep his speed in front of Hamilton. Norris was again advised about the conditions, but was never adamantly told to do something about it or if he should pit or not. It was kind of just up in the air. Norris, how do you feel about the track? And Norris just responded the way he did. The last chance Norris had was a lap before Hamilton went into pit, when his race engineer asked, "What do you think about inters?" Norris, concentrating on holding off Hamilton and irritated by all the radio calls, responded with a loud "no" over the radio. Norris responded like this because he was under the impression that the weather would remain the same. It didn't. The rain got harder and harder, making not pitting the wrong call. So that begs another question. Was not pitting Norris's fault? Or was it the fault of the team? Hell to the no, it was not Norris's fault. In my opinion, first off, Norris was in the car, so he couldn't look at a weather system. You get me? The dude can only feel the track in its current state. He can't just predict the weather in a lapse time or even 2 or 3. He can assume it's going to be a certain way or not, but at the end of the day, the people that have the information are the people that aren't racing. It's the people in the back at the team headquarters. This is why I give 100% of the fault and blame to the headquarters, Zach Brown, the people. Nothing should go against Norris. He was given the wrong information. He thought the weather was going to remain the same or get better. He never thought it was going to get worse. If he thought it was going to get worse, he would have came in. And that's why it's not his fault. I credit this to McLaren's lack of experience at the top. McLaren shouldn't have given Norris a tire choice. They should have told him to come in and pit, but instead they gave Norris a choice and Norris guessed wrong. Hamilton, great guy, I talked about him earlier. He pretty much was just on Norris's tail, and when Norris made that mistake, he took his 100th Grand Prix. Excellent drive, just excellent passion, deserved it, was there all the time. When Norris makes a mistake, the champ takes. Ironically, the rain was also the reason Max Verstappen came back from last to second. The Dutch driver made lots of overtakes, but was stuck in 6th when it started to drizzle. In a surprise move, Max was the one who called for a pit stop. Max pitted various laps before most of the other drivers, allowing him to complete his comeback to second in the last few laps, given he had better tires for a longer period of time. We saw that the rain caused heartbreak for Norris as he watched his first win slip right out of his hands, and conversely, we saw that the rain caused great satisfaction as it allowed for Hamilton to get his 100th win, Verstappen to go from last to second, and for Sainz to get his 3rd podium of the year. That's it for this week of F1 Fridays. Let me know what you want to see more. As always, good luck. What's happening? And Joey Farney's capping.